You will find that some information during today's Q&A will be the same, but this session offers the opportunity to ask questions that may have come up since then. And as a reminder, this session is being recorded. So if you guys could go ahead and please turn off your mics if you haven't already until it's time to take additional questions at the end of this call.
And Amy, if you don't mind, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Stephen, I noticed that we had another AI meeting information be put in the chat. So I didn't know if you wanted to say something really quickly at the beginning about the use of AI, including for taking notes during this meeting.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we don't allow that in this meeting, but it is recorded. So you should be able to access the information afterwards, and we will post any answers to questions online as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. And sorry about interrupting, Amy. Just wanted to hit that right off the bat.
No, that's okay. Yeah. And just as an additional note, if you need captions for this meeting, you can access them by selecting more in the toolbar, then language and speech, and then turn on live captions. All right, so as far as our agenda goes for today, we'll do just a quick welcome and introductions. We'll do a 2026 theme overview. We'll go over the proposal and video expectations, give you guys some programmatic reminders, and then we'll open the call for questions, and then we'll wrap up. All right, now we'd like to share with you our core judging panel. As I already introduced, Stephen Holtz, he's our co-chair and NASA sponsor. He's on the call today, and I think I saw Brian Cole join as well. He is our co-chair. He is with the FAA. We also have Jim Baumiller with Southwest Airlines, John Bombaro with Langley, Scott Calling, also with Southwest Airlines, Greg Emerson with American Airlines, Natasha Neogiv, also from NASA Langley, and Andy Provenza from NASA Glenn. We are super thrilled to have them as part of our judging panel. Really excited to have their expertise. Before I turn it over to Stephen to provide the 2026 overview, we want to invite teams to jot down any new questions down in the chat at any time while Stephen is talking, and we'll make sure we get to them at the end of this call. All right, Stephen, take it away.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, so most of you probably already know, since I assume a lot of you were on the first call or are already hard at work on your proposals. But in this year's competition, we are challenging students to conceptualize novel maintenance advancements that can be implemented by 2035 or sooner, with the goal of improving efficiency, safety, and/or costs for the aviation maintenance and aviation industry. We want you to look at technologies that both are either not currently mainstream or might be used for other things currently, but not in this application, or even the up-and-coming technologies, really considering all of the options that you can look at to try to tackle some of the challenges that you might be looking into, or talking to industry advisors on that you're looking into for your proposals.
Great, thanks. All right, we'll move over to the proposal and video expectations and let Stephen go over that as well.
Sure, yeah. So we've seen all sorts of proposals, in previous years, and already what you all are looking into this year through your NOIs. We want to make sure that you do put the aviation first, right? We don't want to have a 10-page proposal all about, a certain type of code, and then really deeply diving into that code and really not looking at the bigger picture of what is the aviation maintenance challenge and kind of the whole journey of how you're going to get the technology from where it is now to being able to solve that aviation maintenance challenge and the difference it's going to make in the industry, right? So we want you to try to equip the industry that is out there to deal with the problems or opportunities that they have. We do want you to keep it at a high systems level, right? You only have, I believe, 5 to 7 pages in this first round of the proposals to go into your concept. So you really don't have necessarily the time to go super, super in-depth into your concepts, but you have to paint that picture for the judges about, what that landscape is for the aviation maintenance industry and the challenge you're looking at, the technologies you're looking into, and how it's really feasible to get those implemented for the challenges you're looking at. Right? Maybe it'll replace certain systems, maybe it'll integrate into certain systems. I imagine most groups will obviously be integrating into the existing industry, right? 2035 is just around the corner, so there's only so much time to make these ideas happen, right? And to make those happen, you have to consider all of the people that are currently involved in those operations. How is it going to fit into those? So you have to maybe investigate, through your online research or even maybe through conversations, how the end user are going to be able to utilize these systems. And something that we see in previous years that we always try to give advice on, right, is to make decisive and scoped concept choices, right? Your concept can't do everything. Nothing can do everything. And it's easier to explain a concept when it has that has that focus, right? And in your paper, definitely make it clear that, hey, we are deciding to make this design decision or ConOps decision. Sometimes we see student groups that say, hey, we're thinking about doing this or that. And so we're not really sure what they're going to do because they're also not necessarily sure what they're going for that concept, right? So if you're kind of on the fence between which direction to go in, maybe trust your gut. That's based on all the research you're doing, and pick a path for your concept. Right? There's a lot of opportunity spaces for you to close the gap in what's going on in the industry. You can move on to the next slide. So we are focusing on commercial aviation. And while many technologies might be extensible to other parts of the aviation market, right? Some people have brought up business, military, or general aviation. We do not want the proposals to focus on general aviation, military aviation, or business aviation, really focusing on that commercial side to really showcase the large scale impact that your ideas and concepts can really have on the biggest part of the aviation market. And in your videos, we love to see the videos. They are only 2 minutes. Be very, very careful. You only have also so much time to put info in there. So it's really supposed to be kind of maybe a 2-minute elevator pitch that also introduces your group and the idea that you're going for. Do your best to not speed up the audio, not quite talk as fast as an auctioneer. We see all sorts of things students do to try to fit in all of the information they want to cram into those 2 minutes. So do your best. It doesn't have, we're not expecting professional videographers. Try to do your best to have clear audio as well. We often get background noise or maybe the mic's really far away. Whatever you need to do, right, at your group's availability and skills for making this video, right? You don't have to go out and purchase expensive equipment. So it's really about the quality of the content and making sure you can, in that brief 2 minutes, give a very concise, introduction to your group and overview of your concept.
So the judges don't really want to listen to somebody going, this is this fast. Even if you can talk this fast, they don't want to hear your video like this whole 2 minutes. Okay. Okay.
That's impressive.
We have had videos that way.
There's a few every year. So yeah, we do know that all of you are, probably, experts on the use of certain types of AI tools that you might be using in school or for personal use. But for this specific competition, we do want you to be very wary and also aware that we do not want the use of it in a bunch of different areas, right? So maybe you're using it as a way to explore ideas or potential sources of information. That is an okay, kind of on the fence way, right? Be very careful of the sources or the information it tells you, right? We really expect students to do their research, to dive into the paper in peer-reviewed studies that are out there. So that's why that one is in yellow. Of course, a lot of you are using AI-related technologies or concepts maybe in your proposal. That's definitely okay. However, you will get questions from our subject matter experts on the judging panel, and if you're not ready to answer those regarding the quote unquote AI related things that you are putting into your concepts, it might be better to use other language that isn't AI or maybe other technologies if you're not ready to answer some in-depth questions about them. You don't want to come off as not knowing what you're really proposing. We don't want you to use AI to write your proposals, right? We want this to be original student works. You shouldn't use AI to make images or charts. We saw a lot of that increase last year, right? We're not expecting big works of art from the groups anyway. And if you have data, most of it should be pretty simple that you can use, basic tools that you're all used to using. And you should also not be using AI for the video submission as well. If you have any questions about the use of AI, please feel free to reach out to us.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thanks, Stephen. Moving on now to our programmatic marks. So we have a few things for teams to keep in mind as you work towards your proposal writing and video making. First, the competition guidelines, which I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, are very familiar with, are the single most important document in this competition. They will guide what you submit, how you submit it, and how it's judged. They outline exactly what is expected in the competition, and we encourage you to be sure you align your work with the guidelines. Occasionally, there will be an update to the document, and any of those updates will be logged in the change log on the first page of the guidelines online. For significant changes which are not anticipated, teams will receive a notification. It's also important to note that when you submit your proposal and video, your team will also be required to upload several additional documents. So this is important because we want, when time comes for you to submit, we want you guys to be ready and not be stressed out and be missing something at the very last minute. And so one of those things is a W-9 for your university. This must be completed by your Office of Sponsored Programs, Finance Department, or similar entity. Your college, university, or school receives finalist prizes directly, and then your advisor handles it on behalf of the team. And according to their protocols, we cannot send prizes to individuals or clubs. So it's important that we have the correct information that is being asked for in that W-9. And again, like anything we're going over on this, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat for the end of the call, or you can always email us as well.
And I would like to add on to that just by saying that if you haven't already initiated the process to get a signed W-9 back from the university, we really encourage you to put that as a priority item for you tomorrow. Sometimes we found at universities that can take a little bit of time, and we want to make sure that you have that included in your proposal.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Stacy. Next is our faculty attestation form. So this is when advisors must complete the form for the proposal submission to be valid. This indicates that they've reviewed and approved of the proposal and that they are agreeing to the participation agreement on behalf of the team. The participation agreement is new this year, and it can be found on the competition website. It's linked in the advisor attestation form. I think it's also linked on the form site form when you go to submit your proposal. So it's in many, many places. This form should be reviewed by all team members, as there are new eligibility guidelines outlined within the agreement. By signing the attestation form, the team's advisor is signing the participation agreement on behalf of the team. So that's important. Not everybody has to sign it. It just needs the advisor's signature. And then we also want to add that we want, and Stephen kind of touched on this earlier, but think of your proposal like a Shark Tank sales pitch. You're selling your concept to the judges. The maturation of your concept should be at the convincing level. So include enough information to convince the judges that your proposed concept is credible and valuable, and that you provided good justification for your choices. Next. Finalists will be selected from the proposal pool. So upon selection, teams will enter a new scoring period, which will begin with final paper infographic and end with presentations at the forum. And as you see here on this little chart, and as I'm sure you all are aware, the next deadline is February 16th, and that's your proposal and video deadline. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us at blueskies@nianet.org. The selections will be made by March 13th, and finalists will have the next few months after that to complete a final paper, infographic, and develop a presentation. And the GBS Forum will be held at NASA Langley Research Center in Hampton, Virginia in May. And we wanted to go over some of our existing resources. As a reminder, the GBS FAQ webpage is a great resource. It contains the recording, summary document, and chart deck from the first Q&A, and will also house those same resources for today's Q&A. They should be posted within a week of today's call, and we'll be sure to email all the advisors and team leads as soon as the resources from today's call are posted. And that webpage also just has a general list of frequently asked questions. So if you aren't sure about something, that's typically a good place to start. See if you can find an answer. And if not, then again, please feel free to shoot us an email, and we will get back to you. All right, so we got all of that, all the programmatic and stuff out of the way, and we want to go ahead and leave the rest of the time of today's call, which goes till 4:30, to answer any of the questions you may have. So you can use the raise hand function within Microsoft Teams to get in the queue. When called on, you'll unmute your mic and turn on your camera to pose your question. You don't have to turn on your camera. I mean, we'd love to see your faces, but you don't have to. And we'll also take questions from the chat as well. So if you don't use the raise hand function, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll pull them up from there. Stephen, Brian, Stacy, and myself will be handling the bulk of the answers, but if there's any other judges on the call and want to chime in on any relevant areas, please feel free. And with that, we'll go ahead and open it to any questions you may have.
Amy, there is already in the chat, Hugo left us 3 questions. His first question says, in terms of the W-9, do we need only one filled by the university or one per participant? And the answer to that is 1 per university. So that's a much easier one. As Amy said, we aren't able to send any prize money directly to individual participants. We have to send it to the university. And so that's why we need the W-9 for just the university on behalf of your whole team. So just one W-9. The next question Hugo asks is, in the guidelines as written, a strong proposal will make a compelling argument convincing judges of a concept's feasibility and viability. TBD placeholders should not be well justified. TBD placeholders should be well justified, relevant, and not overused or abused. If results or details are not yet available or are still being finalized, it is valuable to indicate that they are forthcoming and how they will be determined. If not mentioned, judges may assume it's not being addressed, while in previous Q&A it was said, no proof of concept and demonstrator. Is there an expected way to cite industrial actors that give us feedback? I guess that last one is the third question. I'm sorry about that.
You're good. I would say if you're talking about like the format for citing somebody, I mean, I don't think we have a format that we ask people to use specifically for how you cite things. We just ask people pick a format for citing, and stick with it so it's consistent, right? A lot of citation formats have a way to cite, an interview or an email, things like that, right? So if you're in contact with an industry expert that you've been asking for advice on, and you're using, a quote or something that you're citing from them, I would say, look towards your format for, email or interview or, in-person type citation, formats. They exist out there. I'm not sure if that's what your question is. You can let us know in the chat if that's what you're looking for.
So on that same note, Stephen, then, is it acceptable for them to say within the body of the proposal, we spoke to Dr. XYZ at XYZ Airlines, and he informed us that this and this is why we're going this way. Would that be an appropriate way to include where they got the information from?
You can. That might be a little wordy, right? But there are, APA, probably, I'm sure AIAA, all sorts of formats have ways to do cite personal interviews or people that are more in text ways of citation.
And then I don't think we quite addressed Hugo's second question. I'm not quite sure what you're asking there. If you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself, Hugo, and maybe explaining a little bit more about what you're asking for with that second question. If that's even possible. If you're trying to talk, we can't hear. Oh, it looks like you dropped a message in the chat. About the second question, I wanted to address the dichotomy between the expected results explicated in the guidelines and the last Q&A where it said not to have results. Stephen, are you able to answer that question?
I'm not sure I quite understand the question exactly. But right, this is a systems level concept, right? So we're not expecting the groups to have done experiments and say this is all of the data that we got from making a device, and this is our result. If that's what you mean by results, right? We're not looking for all of the conceptual ideas and conceptual things to already have been done, right, and necessarily in real life. Obviously, some groups might have experiences with things like that if they're doing things like senior design. But right, we expect teams to be able to answer questions right from the judges about how would something like this work, whether it's at a technical level or integration level. I'm not sure if that's what you're going for, right? We don't expect to see like large tables of data from the concept you're trying to make, like having been implemented already.
I think that is the way that I interpreted the question as well. So thank you for that, Stephen. Todd asked in the chat, somebody mentioned judges asking questions to teams about their proposals when discussing the use of AI. Would this occur during the initial judging stage?
So it could occur in either stage, right? I mean, you will get some text feedback in general, but I would say that I'm very hopeful that students will be prepared, especially at the finalist level, to answer questions directly from the judges, right? If a judge says, "Hey, is an LLM appropriate for this, or is it this type of, AI, ML, et cetera, tool that you want to go for?" Or ask you, is this tool actually this? Is it actually an AI? Or are you just saying AI because it's something people like to say? Being able to answer questions about what you're saying you're going to try to implement through this concept.
And just to clarify, for those teams that are selected as finalists, whenever you come to the culminating forum, we give each team 45 minutes to present, and you've got about 20 to 25 minutes where you actually are doing the presenting, and the remaining 20 to 25 minutes will be left open for the judges to pepper you with questions. And it's always the most stressful part of the entire event when you're getting all of those questions. But it's also a really great time to show that you know your stuff and to be confident in your answers. And that is we love the Q&A portion with the judges. Our judges aren't super tough, but they are going to ask you pointed questions. So they're not trying to get you to fail, but they will ask for clarification on things that they need some clarification on. All right, Evan dropped a question in the chat as well. Do you have recommendations on figures versus text in the proposal? Like historically, which method of delivering information to the reader has had a better effect? Basically, do we just want this sales pitch to aim closer to novel or PowerPoint? So our judges who are reviewing these proposals, do you
So,
have preferences?
so I'm not sure what you mean by closer to novel, but in general, right? I mean, I would don't don't add a chart or a graphic just because, right? I mean, there's like we said earlier, there's only 5 to 7 pages. There are ways in which adding a graphic or a chart um, will save you time, right? Because a chart or a graphic can say so much. Obviously, you still have to explain things in your chart or graphic, but there's a lot of things that you can get out of a chart or graphic that would, maybe would take a whole page to, say word by word. And so there's a lot of useful ways to do it. Obviously, we don't need to see all of your backup calculations in the main part of the proposal. You can put things like that in the appendices if they're calculations or things like that, along with your sources. But our judges are not necessarily obligated to read the appendices. So be careful if you rely on them to do that to explain yourself. But there's no right or wrong answer, right? I mean, you have to have enough text to explain everything, um, but there are places in which your graphics will become very useful. And sometimes students will use graphics from their proposal later on if they make it to the finals and their infographic or in their, their presentations in their kind of pitch that they give. Um, but yeah, there's no right or wrong answer for that one. Sorry.
Yeah, if you could display a lot of good information succinctly in a chart or an image, absolutely feel free. But like Stephen said, there's no pressure to do so. It's really, you have the flexibility to present the information however you think is the best use of your space and time.
It might be difficult to get a high score if it's more charts and pictures than text.
Yeah.
Any other questions? There's not anything in the chat right now that I can see that we missed. Give a few seconds if anybody's writing a message in the chat. You can also feel free to use that raise your hand function at the top of your Teams bar there if you'd like to ask the question verbally. While we're still waiting, I'll just kind of fill the silence here and just share that we are so excited. This is the funnest part of the year in anticipation of receiving all of your proposals and videos. And we know that you guys have been working really hard on your concepts, and we're just getting so excited waiting. I'm like shaking in anticipation of looking at these because it's just always so cool to see the really innovative ideas that you guys come up with. So I hope that you're excited too. I'm sure you're a little stressed as well, trying to get it all in the next few weeks. But we got confidence in you.
That's right.
Something I thought of just as a kind of adding on to something you said earlier about the use of AI in the videos. Please don't do like an awkward AI generated voiceover. We got some of those last year. Just have one or multiple team members contribute the audio portion of the video if that's how you're doing it. But yeah, please don't use the AI for that.
Well, I think we can do last call for questions. Beryl, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good afternoon. Thank you guys for a wonderful presentation. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just I don't want to be talking to myself. Yeah, so I thank you for the presentation. I wasn't here for the first session, but I think I've learned so much from this session. And the question I just had from just your expertise, if you don't mind just sharing, what is something that would stand out as, an innovative piece when you come to just writing a proposal?
Can you repeat that?
What is a quality that will stand out when just writing a proposal for, let's say, my team? I'm looking for something to just, we are already writing the stuff, but I'm I'm trying to make sure I'm encouraging them that they're doing the best, and I want to make sure I am doing what is not just expected, but what would actually make an impact.
So, I mean, one thing that could also help, teams get ready for their finalists if they are going to make it to the finalists is you can make your proposal very easily understandable, right? Um, we do have subject matter experts from all over in our judging panel, right? But nobody is a subject matter expert in everything, right? So I'm sure a lot of proposals will have details, especially technical details from different fields, right? Um, we make sure like I said, don't use buzzwords if you don't need to. If you're, bringing up a very technical word or something that someone might not know, especially acronyms, make sure you explain it. When you get to the finals, especially when you're working on things like the infographic, you'll have to think about how do I explain this to people that might not be technical at all. Um, and thinking like that, I think gives a team a kind of good viewpoint and maybe an advantage because you are going to be speaking to a very varied audience. It kind of gives you that higher viewpoint of, hey, how would I explain this to someone in the public? Why are we doing this? What is the benefit going to be that people would be able to notice at the end of the day? Um, just kind of bringing that 10,000-foot viewpoint to it, I think is very beneficial.
And I think also showing that you've done the research and that what you are proposing, actually has some substance behind it and isn't just a kind of a pie in the sky idea would also be very good for you in your proposal. Any of
Thank
the
you.
other judges want to chime in on that one?
Hey, this is Brian Cole with the FAA. I just want to let you know that I'm an aircraft mechanic by trade. Okay, so the title FAA, the positions, and all this stuff. When it comes down to it, I'm a mechanic. So if that helps with, if I see, I obviously could probably cipher through some of the technical information. But like Steve said, nobody knows everything about all of these subjects. So sometimes, we kind of have a saying where I work, and sometimes less is more. So I'll just leave it at that. If that helps.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, judges. I really appreciate the answer.
It looks like there is another question in the chat from Estrella. Our institution does not have a grant office and may not be able to complete the W-9 vendor form. What is the recommended way to proceed to remain compliant with the competition? There is no alternative form. Every institution that pays tax in the United States has to have some sort of a tax form that they use to be able to operate within the US. And that information is then relayed onto the W-9 form. And so what I would suggest is going to just anybody in your university. You could go to the registrar's office, you could go to the accounting office and just start asking questions about who would need to fill that out. There is somebody in the finance department, somebody who accepts tuition checks that has access to that information that they can get for you. So unfortunately, we absolutely have to have that in order to deem your proposal as compliant. And if you are having trouble Estrella, feel free to reach directly out to us, and we will see what we can do to help and support that. Reach out to us at the Blue Skies email address, and either Amy or I will get in touch with you and help try to find a little additional support there. Any other questions? Okay, we'll get you taken care of.
Yeah. All right. I think that might be it on our questions for our call today. But again, that doesn't mean that we can't still answer your questions after this is over. So feel free to send us an email at blueskies@nianet.org. I'm sure you all have that email address in your email. If not, it's going to be on these presentation decks that I'll be uploading to the website here in a couple of days. And just want to thank you so much for joining today. We appreciate everybody's attendance and everybody's thoughtful questions. And just to reiterate, and within a week, we'll have this recording, the transcribed question and answers, and this deck uploaded to the Blue Skies FAQ website. And then we'll email all the advisors and the team leads to let you know that it's posted. So
actually, Amy, we had one last question.
Okay.
Hop in here at the last second. And Stephen, I think this is going to be one for you to address, or perhaps Brian. The proposals have to be about new technology that is not implemented yet, or is it better to be like enhancement for the current technology? Looks like there's a little question emoji. We just need to represent the general idea without going in deep. Is that the question there?
So I think we tried to answer this earlier, right? I mean, there's lots of different avenues people might take with their concept. Some people might be going completely for, you've never heard of this technology, it's in development. Maybe it'll be ready to implement by 2035. Other people might say, hey, there's a real easy way to make some of the stuff that's already out there better, and this is how we're going to make it better, with stuff that's currently available off the shelf, or COTS, as some people say. So people are going to take different avenues, and all of those avenues are valid.
All right, last call again. Hugo with a hand up. Go ahead and unmute. Well, if you can unmute yourself and chat with us, or you could drop it in the chat too, and we'll wait for you. While we're waiting, Hugo, breathing agreement. I cannot find the signature part. Do we need to create one? That is actually a really good question. So on the proposal submission form, when you actually are uploading the proposal, there will be a section there for signature. And then also on the, we're kind of getting a double signature for you there. So the more important one is actually going to be on the faculty attestation form that the faculty advisor has to sign. He or she is signing, indicating that they have read the proposal, that they agree with what's being put in there, and that they are agreeing to the participation agreement on behalf of the entire team. So on that attestation form, that signature covers the entire team. So not every single person has to fill one out and sign that. The faculty is pretty much agreeing to the fact that the university itself and all of the members on your team are compliant with what's in the participation agreement on behalf of the whole team. So I hope that helps. And then Jim, one of our judges, you've got your hand up. Go ahead and unmute yourself and share with us.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep. Loud and clear.
Okay. I just wanted to second that some of the teams may submit innovative ideas for new technology and so forth that possibly are already under development by the OEMs such as Boeing, Pratt Whitney, GE, Airbus, Embraer. And if it's still their intellectual property and proprietary, yet they independently came up with their own solutions, unknowing what's happening, I don't think that should weigh against any of the teams whatsoever, versus some of us at the airlines may be privy to some of that. So I just wanted to state that should not weigh against them if they independently come up with some concepts and so forth.
Great. Thank you.
Noted. Yeah, I will say, I don't think we haven't seen that a lot, but sometimes we do see teams come up with ideas that they say, oh, this has never been done before. And one of the judges will take a 10-second Google and they're like, are you sure about that? So I always encourage the teams, once you come up with your idea, Google it, see if it's out there. Maybe someone tried it 30 years ago or 20 years ago and it didn't work out. Maybe there's something new now that allows that to work. That's different, right? But definitely, I would say be aware of the information that is generally available about things that might be similar to your idea or along those lines.
Good info.
Yep.
Going once. Going twice. Any last questions? All right, Amy, I think you can wrap us up.
All right. Well, I again just want to say thanks everybody for joining. And within a week's time, we'll have all these resources uploaded to the website and send an email out to all the advisors and team leads with all this information. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us. And best of luck as you submit your proposals next month.